I didn't find out about my husband's second life because I was suspicious. I didn't find out because I hired a private investigator. And I certainly didn't find out because he confessed. I found out because the TikTok algorithm is smarter than he is, and apparently it has a cruel, almost poetic sense of humor. It was a Tuesday, October 21st, 7:42 p.m. I remember the time with uncomfortable clarity because I was plating dinner when everything broke. Salmon, seared just right, asparagus arranged carefully beside it. Patrick's favorite meal. I had learned his preferences the way you learn a second language, through repetition, effort, and the quiet belief that attention equals love. The kitchen was calm, almost eerily so. The refrigerator hummed. Sauce bubbled softly on the stove. The overhead lights reflected off the granite countertops, giving the room a sterile glow, like a showroom for a life that had been curated rather than lived. 15 years of marriage reduced to clean lines and predictable routines. Patrick was delayed at the office. He'd been delayed a lot lately. In the past 6 months, the phrase had lost all emotional weight. It no longer triggered annoyance or concern. It had become white noise, a placeholder explanation for absence, a verbal shrug. I accepted it the way you accept bad weather, unpleasant but outside your control. Then the quiet shattered. Mom, oh my God, Mom, you have to look at this right now. Riley burst into the kitchen so fast she nearly collided with the island. She wasn't just running, she was frantic. Her face was pale, stripped of color, her eyes wide with something between confusion and fear. She held her phone out in front of her with both hands, as if it were dangerous to keep it too close. Riley, slow down, I said automatically, wiping my hands on a dish towel. I was irritated at first, then worried. What is it? Did something happen? Is someone bothering you online? No, she said, breathless. It's Dad. My stomach dropped instantly, my mind racing ahead of my body. Is he hurt? I asked. Was there an accident? No, just watch. She shoved the phone toward me and pressed play. The screen was painfully bright against the dim kitchen lighting. A TikTok video filled it, polished and professionally edited. The music swelled some soft acoustic cover, designed to sound emotional and sincere. The opening shot was a slow, panoramic sweep of a beach. Not just any beach. I recognized it immediately, even before my brain caught up with my eyes. The private stretch of sand in front of the Cape Hotel in Cabo San Lucas. Patrick and I had stayed there for our 10th anniversary. I remembered the view, the way the light hit the water in the late afternoon, the sense that we were temporarily removed from real life. Text floated across the screen in a bubbly white font, cheerful and oblivious. My best friend said yes rings. Barkles, #proposal, #soulmates, #cabavibes, #love. The camera cut. A man stood in the center of a circle of rose petals. He wore a beige linen suit. My throat tightened before my mind fully processed why. I had picked up that exact suit from the dry cleaners 3 days earlier. Patrick had told me he needed it for a conference in San Diego. I had remembered to hang it carefully so it wouldn't wrinkle. A young woman stepped into the frame. She couldn't have been more than 24. Long blonde extensions, glossy and deliberate. A dress that barely qualified as fabric. Skin browned by sun, not vacation sun, but the kind that comes from extended leisure. She lifted her hands to her mouth in a way that looked practiced, almost rehearsed. The man dropped to one knee, the camera zoomed in, and any remaining doubt evaporated. I knew that profile. The slight bump on his nose from when he broke it playing rugby in college, the thinning patch of hair at the crown he pretended didn't exist. The watch on his wrist, a vintage Omega Speedmaster, I had bought it for his 40th birthday, $6,500. I remembered the way he'd smiled when he opened the box. Patrick, my husband, the father of the trembling girl standing beside me. He pulled out a ring box and opened it. Even through the small screen, the diamond was impossible to miss. Oval cut, halo setting, flashing violently in the Cabo sun. The girl nodded, tears spilling down her face. Patrick stood, wrapped his arms around her, and spun her in a tight circle. The camera swirled with them, laughter and applause bleeding into the music. The caption changed, so happy for Kayla and her new fiancé, Say 2 hearts, the video looped. Again, he dropped to one knee. Again, she cried. Again, he spun her. Mom, Riley whispered. Her voice shook. That's Dad, right? My brain resisted. It searched for alternatives, a deepfake, a coincidence, someone who looked like him. A misunderstanding waiting to be clarified. Patrick didn't have a twin. I knew every version of him that existed. Or at least I thought I did. I took the phone from her hands. My fingers felt numb. I glanced at the timestamp. Posted 2 hours ago. He said he was in San Diego. I said quietly, "What?" Riley asked. He said he was at the West Coast Tech Summit. I unlocked my phone and opened our text thread. At 6:15 p.m., Patrick had written, "Landed safely. Hotel's nice. Missing you. Conference starts early tomorrow. Love you." Attached was a photo of a sunset over water, generic enough to be anywhere. I looked back at Riley's phone and tapped on the creator's profile. Kayla lives life, 14,000 followers. Bio, travel, lifestyle, fashion, ring emoji. I scrolled down. There was Patrick at a candlelit dinner table. Caption, date night with my boo. Patrick driving a convertible. Road trip vibes. Patrick's hand holding hers on a plane. First class with this one. I kept scrolling. 3 months, 6 months, a year, 18 months. Riley was crying now, silent tears sliding down her face, cutting through the residue of acne cream on her cheeks. She looked impossibly young, stripped of something she shouldn't have had to lose. He's not at a conference, she said. No, I replied, feeling something cold and metallic settle into place inside me. My name is Sloan Connolly. I was 39 years old at the time, and I was the director of digital marketing for a mid-sized tech firm in Nashville. My job wasn't creative fluff or vibes or branding slogans. My job was behavior. I worked in numbers, patterns, engagement curves, drop-off points. I understood how people reveal themselves without meaning to. I knew how algorithms learned faster than humans ever could. I knew that if you lingered on a video for more than 3 seconds, the system remembered. I knew that pauses meant curiosity, rewatches meant obsession, and silence meant intent. I knew that nothing people posted online was ever truly private, no matter how carefully they curated it. Patrick knew all of that too, or he should have. He'd listened to me talk about it for years. He just never imagined the data would turn on him. Patrick called himself a business consultant. It was a wonderfully vague title. He consulted for logistics companies, optimizing supply chains, streamlining operations. At least that was the version he sold. What it really meant was constant travel that no one could easily verify. 2 weeks in Chicago, a week in Atlanta, 3 days in San Diego, enough movement to blur timelines, enough distance to make lies breathable. I had never questioned it. I had my own career, my own deadlines, my own 6-figure salary that covered most of our household expenses. Trust, I'd believed, was efficient. That night, after Riley went to her room, I opened my laptop. The salmon went into the trash. The kitchen smelled like burned fish and something else that felt permanent. I sat at the island and opened my MacBook Pro, fully spec'd, still warm from the day's work. I didn't log into TikTok under my real account. I used a burner profile I kept for competitive research. Habit, instinct, I searched Kayla Lives Life. Her real name wasn't Liv. It was Kayla Rivers. She was based in Nashville. Of course she was. She tagged her location in nearly every post. The Gulch, 12 South, Green Hills. Places Patrick said he hated because parking was terrible. I opened a spreadsheet, blank at first, clean and white. Column A, date, column B. Patrick's stated location. Column C, Kayla's tagged location. Column D, evidence. I started filling it in June 12th. Patrick said he was consulting in Denver for FedEx. Kayla posted a hiking video at Red Rocks. In the reflection of her sunglasses, you could see a man's silhouette. Broad shoulders, familiar posture, August 4th. Patrick claimed a late-night strategy session at the office. Kayla posted a sushi date. The photo showed a hand holding chopsticks. There was a small scar near the thumb. Patrick had gotten it slicing a bagel 3 years earlier, September 20th, Patrick attended a charity golf tournament in Charlotte. Kayla posted a spa weekend in Asheville. In the background of one video, a man's voice said, "I'll take the scotch. Neat." I replayed it 3 times. It was Patrick's voice, flat, confident, unmistakable. I worked without stopping. Midnight came and went. By the time the house was completely silent, I had mapped out 18 months of overlap. Every business trip aligned perfectly with her content. Every absence had a digital footprint. The data wasn't emotional. It didn't care about excuses or explanations. It only cared about consistency, and Patrick's lies were consistent. The cheating was obvious, almost boring in its predictability. What made my hands shake was the money. Influencers tagged brands. Kayla was meticulous about it. A new Louis Vuitton bag, tagged and thanked. I looked up the model $3,200, a birthday weekend at the Ritz-Carlton, 3 nights, roughly $2,400. A video of her standing in front of a white Range Rover, Evoque with a red bow. Lease down payment, minimum $5,000. Monthly payments close to $900. Patrick made good money, but not too household luxury. Gift influencers, sponsor money. We lived comfortably, not extravagantly. Mortgage, car payments, Riley's private school tuition $28,000 a year. Groceries, utilities, life. I logged into our joint bank account. Everything looked normal. Bills paid. No strange withdrawals. The balance was healthy, which meant the money was coming from somewhere else. Then I remembered the LLC. 3 years earlier, Patrick had set up Connolly Consulting Group. He'd explained it casually over dinner. Tax efficiency, expensing travel, equipment write-offs. I had nodded and gone back to cooking. I trusted him. I didn't have access to the LLC account, but I did have something else. His email password. He used the same password for everything. Riley 2009, I logged into his Gmail and searched one word, statement, First Horizon Business Checking. 12 months of PDF, I downloaded them all. September made my breath catch. Transfer out $4,500 to K Rivers. Debit card purchase, Tiffany & Co., $15,240. Debit card purchase, The Cape Hotel Cabo, $6,800. The Ring. The proposal, my savings, then I saw the deposits. Deposit, $25,000 from Sloan Connolly Joint Savings. My chest tightened. I opened our savings account. The balance showed $85,000. That was right, or it looked right. Something felt off. The font on the web page looked slightly wrong. The spacing was imperfect. I refreshed the page. Same number. I called the bank's automated line and entered the account number. The balance on your account ending in 4492 is $422.16. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the counter. I understood immediately what he'd done. He had spoofed screenshots. Used Inspect Element. Edited the HTML before sending me images of the balance. I hadn't logged into the actual portal in months. I trusted the app. I trusted him. 14 years of savings, college funds, emergency reserves, gone. Funneled through his LLC, funneled into Kayla Rivers. I felt something rise in my chest, raw and violent, but I didn't scream. I closed my eyes. I breathed in for 4 counts. I breathed out for 4 counts. Patrick had stolen my money. He had betrayed my daughter. He had assumed I was just a wife. He had forgotten that I was a strategist, and he had no idea what kind of war he had started. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I called in sick, which in my company was almost ceremonial because I had taken exactly 3 sick days in 10 years. My boss didn't ask questions. By 9:00 a.m., I was sitting alone in a coffee shop in East Nashville, one of those places with reclaimed wood tables and plants that never quite look real. I wasn't there for caffeine. I was there to meet Beatrix Wilder. I had found her name buried deep in an online forum for divorced women, tucked between warnings about hiding cash and threads about emotional recovery. The posts about her were consistent, efficient, quiet, relentless. Someone had called her the divorce whisperer, and the nickname had stuck. She walked in at 9:05 exactly on time. She didn't look like a private investigator. She looked like a librarian who lifted heavy things for fun. Glasses, flannel shirt, hair twisted into a messy bun, arms strong enough to make you rethink your assumptions. She sat down without asking and placed a notebook on the table. "You're Sloan," she said, voice rough, unpolished. "Yes, you said it was urgent. He comes back tomorrow," I said. "He thinks I believe he's been in San Diego. And what has he actually been doing?" I slid my phone across the table and played the screen recording of the TikTok video. She watched it once. Then again, she didn't react until the end. "Cute," she said. "Rose petals, private beach, Cape Hotel. That's the proposal package. Runs about $2,000 just for setup." "He paid for it with my savings," I said. $85,000. She exhaled slowly. "That turns this from sad divorce into felony fraud, depending on how he moved it." "I need everything." I said who she is, whether she knows about me, his finances, his plans. "I need it before he walks through my door." She nodded. "My rate is $1.50 an hour, 2,000 retainer." I wrote the check without hesitation by 2:00 p.m. My phone buzzed. "Check your email." The subject line read, "Preliminary report, Patrick Connolly." It was devastating in its efficiency. Kayla Marie Rivers, 24, former waitress at Southern Steak and Oyster, currently unemployed. Influencer, apartment in the Gulch, lease signed by Patrick Connolly as guarantor, rent $2,800 per month. Vehicle, 2024 Range Rover Evoque, leased in Patrick's name. "Does she know about you?" I asked when be called. "Yes," she said. Screenshots from a private Facebook group, Future Wives Network. Kayla's post was dated 3 weeks earlier. "My fiancé is finally leaving his toxic ex-wife. She's a psycho workaholic who neglected him for years. He's just waiting for the right moment to serve her papers so she doesn't try to take his money." I laughed, sharp and dry. "Also," B added, "he's been meeting with a realtor." "For what? Your house?" The room felt suddenly too small. "He can't sell it without me. He can try," she said. "Did you sign anything recently?" I froze. 2 weeks earlier, Patrick had brought home a stack of papers. Insurance updates, HELOC adjustment. I'd signed them standing at the counter, distracted, tired. "He filed a limited power of attorney," B said. "Real estate transactions, filed yesterday." My throat closed. "He's going to sell it." "He's planning to," she corrected. "Unless you stop him." I needed a lawyer. B already had a name, Diana Steele. Diana's office was on the 30th floor of a glass tower downtown. It smelled like leather and quiet intimidation. She wore a white power suit and looked like someone who enjoyed dismantling men professionally. She reviewed the documents without comment. The TikTok video, the bank statements, the POA. "He's sloppy," she said finally. "Arrogant and sloppy, excellent for you. He stole $85,000, I said, and he's trying to sell my house. He's liquidating assets before filing," Diana said. "Cash out, move money, maybe hide some in crypto. I see a Coinbase transfer for $10,000. What do? We can file emergency motions, freeze assets, restraining order, court. But that alerts him," she said. "He hides what's left, claims the POA was valid. It becomes a war." "I don't want a war," I said. "I want it over." Her smile was slow and dangerous. "What are you thinking? He thinks I know nothing," I said. "He's planning an engagement party. Saturday, Germantown." Diana leaned forward. "I need him to sign something." I continued. "Something that reverses the POA and locks everything down. He won't sign unless he thinks it benefits him. Then we make it benefit him." Diana's eyes sharpened. "Greed? Yes. You offer him money you don't have," she said. "Bonus, inheritance, windfall." I nodded. "We build a restructuring document," she continued. "Tax protection, trust, inside it, a clause that revokes all prior POA, acknowledges the withdrawal as a loan, repayment due immediately, and an infidelity clause. He'll read it," I said. "He went to business school. He'll skim it," she corrected. "He'll read for profit, not defense." She drafted for hours. Page after page of legal camouflage. On page 32, Article 14, Section B, Contingent Asset Allocation. It sounded dull by design. It reclassified the $85,000 as a commercial loan to his LLC. It made infidelity grounds for forfeiture of the marital home. It turned his lies into admissions. He signs this while cheating. Diana said, tapping the screen, and he hands you the house. Will it hold? Absolutely. She slid the printed document across the table. You have to sell it. I'm in marketing, I said. Selling fantasies is what I do. Patrick came home the next night tanned and smiling, smelling like sunscreen and perfume layered under airport air. I told him about the merger, the bonus 400,000, maybe 5. I watched his face transform, watched the exhaustion vanish. When I mentioned taxes, his concern sharpened. When I mentioned a trust, he hesitated. When I said it would save 200,000, he picked up the pen, he signed, he notarized, he never saw the trap closing around him. By Saturday afternoon, the house felt like a stage set built for someone else's performance. Patrick moved through the rooms with nervous energy, checking his phone every few minutes, rehearsing lines under his breath, straightening pillows that didn't need straightening. He kept glancing at me like he was waiting for applause. I played my role well, smiled, asked if he wanted help, kissed his cheek, told him I was proud of him. The words tasted strange but satisfying, like saying good. Bye without letting the other person know it was the last time. The engagement party was at a restored brick venue in Germantown, all warm lights and exposed beams, the kind of place people rented when they wanted their happiness to look expensive but effortless. Kayla arrived 20 minutes late, of course. She wore white, not bridal white exactly, but close enough to make the statement she wanted. She looked smaller in person, younger. Her confidence came from being chosen, not from knowing who she was. Patrick's entire body shifted when he saw her, like a compass needle snapping north. I watched them from across the room, the way his hand rested on her lower back, the way she laughed too loudly at everything he said. People congratulated me, some hugged me, some looked confused. Patrick had told them a version of the story where I was enlightened, evolved, supportive of his next chapter. No one questioned it out loud. They never do when the narrative is delivered with confidence and champagne. Beatrix stood near the bar, invisible to everyone but me. She lifted her glass once, just enough for me to notice. Diana wasn't there. Lawyers rarely enjoy victory parties unless they're billing by the hour. Instead, she was at her office, waiting. Patrick tapped his glass for attention. The room quieted. Kayla squeezed his arm, eyes shining, ready for the moment she had been rehearsing in her head for weeks. He launched into a speech about honesty, about growth, about choosing happiness even when it's hard. I felt a flicker of something then, not pain, not anger, just astonishment at how easily he lied when an audience was listening. And none of this, he said, gesturing around the room, would be possible without Sloane. For her generosity, her understanding, people turned toward me. Applause swelled. I stood, smiled, lifted my glass. I met Kayla's eyes. She looked startled, then smug, then unsure. She didn't know what I knew. She didn't know what he had signed. She didn't know that the ground under her feet was already giving way. I waited until Monday morning at 8:07 a.m. Patrick was served at his office, emergency injunction. Asset freeze, notice of breach, notice of loan default, notice of infidelity clause activation. By 8:12, his assistant was crying. By 8:30, his phone was blowing up. By 8:45, he was at my door. He didn't knock, he pounded. I let him stand there for a full minute before opening it. He looked smaller too, pale, unshaven. The confidence drained out of him like water from a cracked glass. What did you do? He demanded. I protected myself. I said calmly, you set me up. You set yourself up, I replied. I just stopped you from finishing the job. He pushed past me, storming into the living room like it still belonged to him. That document, he said, waving a copy, it's insane. It's predatory. You signed it. I said, twice. I trusted you. I almost laughed. Almost, you stole from me. I said instead, you lied to me. You planned to sell my house out from under me, and you did all of it thinking I was too busy, too loyal, too stupid to notice. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He sat down heavily on the couch, hands shaking. Kayla doesn't know, he said suddenly. She thinks. I know what she thinks, I said. She posted it online. His head snapped up. You were spying on her. No, I said. I was paying attention. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he whispered, What do you want? I had rehearsed this answer. It came easily. I want the house. I want the loan repaid. I want you to stay away from me. And I want you to understand that if you fight this, it will get very public. He swallowed. And if I agree, then this ends quietly, I said. For you, 3 weeks later, the house was solely mine. The loan was repaid from the sale of the Range Rover and the liquidation of his crypto accounts. Kayla disappeared from social media, deleting posts, changing usernames, rewriting her own story. Patrick moved into a one-bedroom apartment across town and stopped answering mutual friends' messages. On a Sunday afternoon in early fall, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee, the deed papers tucked safely inside. The house was quiet, not lonely, just mine. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. Like someone who had learned, too late but not too late enough, that love without awareness is just another kind of liability. And this time I had read every line.